Italian citizenship is very attractive, confers on the applicant rights to the EU labour market, as well as visa-free access to a number of countries. So what was the recent change in 2025? Will it affect you? What caused it? And how will this affect future applicants? According to Statista, the Italian population is falling from nearly 60 million in 2019 to forecasts of 58 million in 2030. The fertility rate. The people in Italy are having less children for a number of reasons. Recently, the fertility rate has halved. According to Istat, Italy has the oldest population in the EU. This risks a future economic collapse if this trend continues, as less working people will be supporting more pensioners. The working population in Italy has fallen by nearly 2 million in the last 10 years. If you combine this with a falling overall population, an ageing population, and a collapse in the fertility rate, this is why Italy is keen to attract working age immigrants. And typically this immigration comes in two main flavours. There are others. Jus sanguinis is citizenship by descent via blood. Jus soli is the right of the soil. This is as a consequence of someone living in Italy for a period of time. That's a hot topic which I'll save for another time. Before the change in 2025, applicants could claim Italian citizenship based on family members dating back to 1861. That was the date of the unification of Italy. You may be aware there was high levels of outward migration from Italy and Sicily in the late 18th and 19th centuries. Of all the citizenships available in the EU, Italy's was particularly attractive. There are a lot of criteria in which you could apply, and it enabled visa-free travel to a lot of countries. On the downside, as in most bureaucracy in Italy, the process was long, complex, and there were lots of appeals against decisions. 5 countries in the EU were granting 78% of the citizenships: Sweden, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. If you look at the trends, Italy is consistently towards the top of awarding citizenships in the EU. If you look at the countries that request citizenship status in the EU in the highest numbers, Italy is typically in the top 2 countries most sought after for citizenship. So what were the problems that led to the change? There was a surge in applications for citizenships, and this was blocking up courts and local offices who were having to look up birth, marriage and death records to support applications. Another issue was Italian citizenship was being sought after in very high numbers from countries in South America. Now this was important for 2 reasons. One was for access to work in the EU, and the other reason is this allowed visa-free access to America, and this could often mean the applicant would have no connection with Italy and not travel to Italy. Antonio Tajani of Forza Italia, one of the political parties in Italy, and he is the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy as I record, alleged this was being particularly abused by people in South America, namely Brazil and Argentina, and there were concerns that half of Argentinians would have some claim to Italian citizenship. To underline this point, Javier Milei, the Argentinian president, indeed became an Italian citizen in 2024. Okay, get to the point, Serge. What were the changes in 2025? Citizenship rules are governed by 36-2015 was passed on the 29th of March 2025. This became effective immediately as soon as it was published, but it still needs to be ratified by the Parliament. Jus sanguinis. The process of citizenship by descent, by blood, is as a result greatly restricted. This limits the automatic citizenship to those with an Italian parent or grandparent who were born in Italy. No more claims via great-grandparent from an era late in the 19th century when there was a period of significant outward emigration. Furthermore, the Italian grandparent or parent of the applicant must have lived in Italy for 2 to 3 years before the applicant was born. This was to ensure the applicant had close cultural links with Italy. All applications were to be processed centrally in Rome with mandatory in-person interviews. Clearly, this will be an easy way to limit the numbers of applications. If an applicant's Italian ancestors had voluntarily acquired a new nationality while the applicant was still a minor, then that minor lost their right to Italian citizenship. I did say it does get complicated. Furthermore, the applicant must demonstrate a proficiency in the Italian language. And just so you're aware, this is also required if you're trying to apply for citizenship via marriage. Dual nationals, they're not off the hook either. They have to engage with Italy in a number of ways: paying taxes, voting, renewing passports. And just so you're clear, now to renew a passport, you need codice fiscale, which is a tax code, an Italian tax code. You need to register for IRE, which is register Italian citizens residing abroad. And I have to say, when I did this process, whenever I've been to the consulate, they always ask detailed questions about the numbers of children you have under 18. And furthermore, the applicant must demonstrate that they visit Italy reasonably regularly. So what was the purpose? The intention of the legal revision is to prioritise the applicants with a more recent and closer demonstrable connection to Italy. A number of people have now been excluded as their parents and grandparents have never lived in Italy. The central office planned in Rome is to handle all applications. Getting an appointment is going to be very interesting. The Italian Supreme Court rulings are becoming increasingly more strict. So in the end, this already very long, complicated process has become even more long, complex and expensive for applicants. The cost and complexity has increased further due to the in-person interviews in Rome and the language proficiency tests. Let's see how easy it is to get a slot. I expect this to be a nightmare to book. Anyone with experience trying to book a slot at a consulate will know what I'm talking about. Of course, Italy being Italy, everyone has a different opinion. Giorgia Meloni of the party Fratelli d'Italia. She's a right-wing politician and Prime Minister of Italy. She's keen to retain cultural and ethnic Italian identity and resolve the issue of the falling fertility rate. Matteo Salvini of Lega, formerly Northern League. Not to be left out, another right-wing politician who always has an opinion regarding immigration, including this provision. Click here to get even closer to Italy and Sicily.